In the past 4 months of my life, I've been working on board a ship, far away from my home, far away from my family, and far away from my usual life. And I'll say it's been pretty great. I've met lots of cool people, I've seen a lot of interesting places, and I've done a lot of crazy work as I'm training to be a marine engineer, and there's a lot of crazy operations you gotta do to keep a ship running. But for the most part, it's been very interesting to see all of this happen. And I'm just very fortunate to be pretty much out here on the ocean. That's like very amazing and awesome. Yeah, this was something I've been anticipating ever since I started the academy 3 years ago. And that was during a time I was still very hesitant about possible opportunities that this career could hold. At some points, I definitely felt like I was stumbling my way through through like my everyday stuff, and it was just, oh my gosh. But like, this was definitely way out of my comfort zone at first. It was very challenging to adjust to life on board a ship at first, learning how to get my way around in a wildly different environment. This was new for me. This was very new for me. I've always just been like hanging around my own little town, and now I'm expected to go miles away into this foreign lands and expect to at least live a somewhat normal life. I definitely got homesick like once or twice and almost seasick. But I think I've came out a much stronger person than I was before, I think out of most of experiences I've had in my 21 years of life, this one has really given me a lot of growth. I'll give it that. I am very proud of how far I've come. Ever since I stepped on the boat, it was certainly going to feel like I was in over my head. I had a lot of doubts, like, is this even for me? But this is only my first contract. It's only 4 months. How much longer could it be? How much harder could it be? What kind of stuff could be thrown my way? So I just kind of like had to keep an open mind about all of that, knowing that this is going to be quite an adventure, and framing it that way made it a lot easier to manage. When I joined the ship back in February, I was, of course, really nervous. I was dropped to the pier and I was able to walk to the ship, which I'll get to later, but I am apparently very lucky for literally walking onto my first ship from my home without needing any flight or whatever to get there. But yeah, upon joining the ship, I was immediately pulled into the bustling highway of people called the Crew I-95. Of course, I had to start sweating a lot because there's a lot of new faces and a lot of new nationalities that I've never seen or mostly interacted with like ever in my life. I was kindly directed to CD Medical Center to hand in all of my C medicals. The nurse at the desk noticed that I was very nervous and had to just console me like, no, it's okay. You don't have to be so shy about it or something like that. And even the admin for my own department told me to behave like I was about to do something weird, since in the back of my mind I learnt from some of the supplementary training that they gave us, right? They told me that nervousness is a sign of a suspicious person. But it wasn't that serious, like literally, of course. It was just between being in a new environment and part of me was just thinking that I needed to be cautious or something, but for the most part, things are going well for the first day. I do end up getting lost looking for my vessel familiarization meeting. Of course, there's like a bunch of damn hallways on these boats and a bunch of damn floors, so I did end up having to be like 2 minutes late to this meeting because I could not find my way back to that I-95, which was literally one of the most easiest places to find on a boat for the crew, I just kind of gave up and had to ask one of the guys cleaning the rooms, housekeeping, to show me how to just get back to the I-95. And already I'm out here fumbling on the most simple things like the layout of the ship, but I guess it was inevitable. It's just part of the character development, like some kind of canon event, getting lost on the ship on my first contract. I believe this is something universal because, yeah, these things are like a maze, man. But yeah, luckily the guy was nice. He was very polite to me and, showed me exactly where I had to be. But other than that, the process of adjusting wasn't as jarring as I thought it would be. Part of the familiarization on the first day was for my department admin, to show me all of the important places that are going to be like pretty crucial to normal functioning on the ship, like the crew laundry, the smoking area, which is also the very important crew muster station, for the record. And, of course, the location of where my awesome workplace will be for the next 4 months. The entrance to the engine room. So again, for the record, I am pursuing marine engineering, and this contract really exposed me to the real nitty-gritty of how a lot of the machinery on board works. I'm going to try. I'm going to try to not get too technical with all that I've been exposed to. But yeah, it was generally really exciting to finally see all of the crazy tech that I've only read about in the books and on YouTube videos, and could only have a vague idea of what I'm going to be working with up to this point. So, with me starting out fresh, of course, everyone wasn't expecting me to just go in and start operating everything right away. One thing I had asked the chief engineer really early on was how to find my way around the actual engine room, and one pretty awesome piece of advice he had given me was to follow your third engineer or your oiler, and don't touch anything. Just straight up don't touch anything. And if you don't know what it is, which was pretty much basically everything down there, just don't touch it, at least for the time being. Don't worry, he was actually very nice about it. It wasn't anything to tear me down. It was actually very encouraging. So once I'm introduced to my team, they give me a small walk around through the engine room, which immediately I'm overwhelmed by both the noise of the engine and the maze of pipes and pumps scattered around like a jungle. The second I enter the machinery space, I already see someone going under these removable deck plates, which the Italians, they have a fancy way of calling them, called paiolas. And they were checking on a hose or something, I can't remember too well. But in the moment, it felt so crazy seeing stuff happen not even 2 feet from the door. Not knowing what's going on, or if this is even normal to see a guy go under the deck like that. But other than that, the third engineer on my team had guided me around while also managing some of his own tasks on the watch. Luckily I was with him because I was damn well gonna be very lost. During school, it was very easy to understand theoretically what the general directions on a vessel are, right? You have port, meaning left, starboard is right, forward as well, the front, and aft, AFT, is the back. But actually being thrown into the environment actually made me feel like I had lost all of my knowledge. All of the mental development that I had over the 3 years just got ejected from my brain, just never to be seen again. I would look at, say, the most notable piece of machinery down there, such as the diesel generator, but would not tell you the general direction of where it is. Something as simple as getting around the dang place couldn't be learned from just actually being from the textbooks in the school. It would actually just happen naturally in the actual workplace, which, was expected to happen. Major blessings to my third engineer, who would start it very simple with me and just teach me the basic layout of all the main compartments of the engine room from aft to forward. And yet, even for a whole week, I would still have to put in a lot of effort to to just remember where exactly I was down there. I would oftentimes very much forget everything when I was asked to make sure that I still knew what I was actually being taught. But slowly over time, I did start to get my bearings and actually start to be more confident of what is where, and not bump my head or trip on certain ledges around the room. I will say, being a 6 foot tall person is rather unfortunate in this career. I still end up bumping into a lot of pipes. I'm always just walking a tightrope between concussions or constant back pain. I'm exaggerating, of course, but yeah, there is a lot of ducking and bending to do down there. So yeah, at first I am introduced to all of the general locations, all the escape routes, all of the emergency breathing devices, very important life-saving equipment just in case, shit gets really strange. And then eventually I'm introduced to all the machinery as well, which there is an overwhelming amount of information to gather about them. Yeah, I still have a long way until I can say I am competent in knowing all of them. For the most part, school has taught me to recognize most of the basic machines that make up the engine room, which was at least a bonus at first. Stuff like centrifugal purifiers, freshwater generators, heat exchangers, yap. But some things were still, how I could say, novel to my understanding. For example, what I was expecting when it comes to, say, how the propulsion is managed on the ship, I thought it was going to be like a main engine connected directly to the shaft of the propeller. But actually what was the case was they actually have this set of generators, right? Feeding the electrical power to something called propulsion motors. Ooh. So like these engines, right? They are actually separated from the actual propulsion, which I see now as genuinely a very elegant solution to powering both the massive hotel on the ship and having enough to propel the propellers at the back. Again, I'm trying to just keep what I talk about, not as nerdy and as technical as I could, but I just stay with me, please. I promise. I won't go on a tangent yapping about how to get your hot water to your cabin, and how you can thank the engine in part for waking up with that enjoyable steamy shower, and seeing exactly how the quality of water is produced by people just like me. But yeah, overall, tackling the engine room has become a lot easier over time, as well as just meeting the people who work around the space. All the people I work with have been amazing, honestly. The ratings have a great attitude, even though I still tend to be more shy and reserved. Some of them genuinely looked out for me, and they make me smile to work with them. The oilers, the wipers, the motormen, the workshop team. There's a lot of teams on this ship, but they all had really unique people with fun traits that made this crazy job a lot more fun to manage, Every time I would introduce myself to everyone, one thing that would always come up is the fact that I am very, very lucky to be from the Bahamas. This ship that I've been on, its route is always just between these three ports. Nassau, which is my home, Freeport, and Port Canaveral. So to be working this close to home like this was something like an accolade that was always given to me by these guys. Most of them always needed to travel hours and hours just crossing the continents or something to get to this side of the world, and that kind of just made me feel humbled to realize how fortunate I was choosing to work here. I technically can just go home, which I always have to explain that I can't go to my house because I don't have my keys. I didn't bring them on the boat with me, guys. Also, most of them, they actually have never worked with a Bahamian either, which is really insane to think about. To some of them, I really was their first impression of people from my country because not a lot of us are out there on the ocean. Very ironic considering the Bahamas as an archipelago is bound by the ocean, and like hundreds of cruise ships flying by here like every year. It's honestly a wonder that even in this day and age so little of us are out here. So I tried doing my part to represent the Bahamas, having like zero Bahamian accent under my belt, but at least this kind of came in clutch for some aspects because having practiced no broken English was an advantage, because out of all of my crew in the department, I just ended up being the only one with English as my native language. Apparently to them, I sounded like straight up using the clean King's English. And I'm like, bruh, man, I don't know what to tell you. Also, I mentioned that the ship's route is always between the Bahamas and Florida. Well, actually, like the moment I joined, the itinerary had planned an Atlantic crossing to Europe for March and April. which I learned is actually ultra, super, mega, crazy rare for this ship to embark on. Oh man, like that was actually like crazy fortunate to have had this opportunity to go literally the farthest away on planet Earth that I have been. Because if not for that, I would have just hung around pretty much my home country for the entire contract. And I think that was going to get very, very boring really quick. Because when we came back in end of April, I was already starting to get very bored, going between these three ports. But yeah, we ended up going up to Europe for 2 months and we just had a blast. I saw so much new things that, I'd never imagined I'd end up seeing. The streets of Barcelona were really among my favorite places to see. I got to see that awesome cathedral up close, but we didn't get the chance to go inside because it was like Saturday or something, and like mass is the only time where entering is free, and we just didn't want to waste time like that, I guess. But yeah, one joke I tell to my friends a lot is I was very amazed at the fact that I saw mountains and that these are like real land features, and they are like really like they're man, mountains are just crazy, man. The biggest one I had ended up seeing on the trip was at Las Palmas, and seeing it just rise up and up into the haze from the view of the ship. Oh man, that was just majestic. Going to Europe was just unforgettable, and I'm still very, very thankful that I was able to go there. So yeah, I genuinely can say I had a pretty great time on my first ship. I'm not sure if I'd have anything more to cover, because I might just be here for days if I yap about literally everything that I've been through. But so I think I'll just wrap it up here. I'm just very blessed and fortunate to be able to work in this career, meet all these kinds of amazing people on the way. And for me, I just hope to continue with that same fire to excel at this job, make friends, make memories, and maybe, just maybe, find the one piece while I'm at it. I will put up a list of people that I've worked with. They are really awesome and amazing, and I just want them to know that, y'all made my first contract pretty much unforgettable, I feel like the memories from this contract will very much stick with me pretty much all the way through my career. So, I'll just give them a big thank you for that, big shout outs to them. As always, glory be to God in the highest, and may His grace and mercy continue to rise on all of you like the sun. Thank you all so much for being my awesome family at sea, away from home. Take care, everyone. See you later.